I'm with one of the guests at the Bernie Sanders big speech on democratic socialism. And what's your name?
Yes, John Mitchell, an attorney.
Hi, John Mitchell. It's so nice to meet you. So obviously Bernie's giving this big speech today. He's released parts of it, and it seems like the big kind of push is to follow up on FDR's New Deal. What do you think about Bernie's focus on democratic socialism, and do you consider yourself a democratic socialist?
Yes, I've not actually joined the Democratic Socialist Party, but I can see what color I'm painted. It's very much, I was a social worker before I became a lawyer, and working on poverty issues and these kinds of things. And the whole FDR approach to this, stimulating the economy from the bottom up, and in particular having humans run our democracy. That's really what socialism is. We can have socialism for the wealthy, which is what Republicans are pushing out. Give the money to wealthy people and hope they're going to make life better for you. The reality is that we can't have corporations running our country. Corporations are essentially amoral. They don't have a conscience. They really don't exist except on paper by the Secretary of State saying, oh, you're a corporation now. And the managers of the corporations, their only obligation is to make the shareholders more wealthy without hopefully going to jail doing it. But their primary responsibility is wealth for the stockholders. That's no way to run a country. Corporations don't get headaches. Corporations don't have sick children they need to stay home with and not go to work. Corporations don't get headaches stuck in traffic. They don't get sick. It's time for us to take over our democracy again and run this country by humans. All humans can participate, but you've got to be human. You can't be simply an amoral corporation. And in my view, that's what socialism is all about, democratic socialism. It's a democracy of humans looking out for the best interests of all of us and not corporations that are jiggering the system to benefit only a handful.
Why do you think that people are so scared of the words democratic socialism, and what can we do to kind of get around that?
One of my first jobs as a social worker was within the Southern Baptist Church ambiance. I was in Louisville, Kentucky, trying to fight poverty there. And to get a Southern Baptist church involved in socialism, we had to kind of, not socialism, I mean social work. We would use different language to avoid that word social. Instead of social work, it would be community ministries, things of that nature. But there is just this sort of bizarre thing that we still have, I think, a layer of the better dead than red mentality, a fear of communism, and letting that slop over into something completely different, which is democratic socialism. But where people just sort of have this reaction saying, wait a minute, we should be capitalists. Well, there's nothing. There's nothing really antagonistic between social democracy and capitalism. It simply means that the rules are going to be set by the humans, not by the corporations where the capitalists are investing their money.
And something Bernie talks a lot about is that we have a right to housing, education, a living wage, clean housing, all of those pieces that make up being a human, as you talk about. And when you break it down and show people those factors individually and don't call it democratic socialism, do you think that people across the board, Republican, Democrat, whatever they call themselves, will find it more acceptable, Bernie's message?
Yes, and I think that's one of the reasons why Bernie Sanders' campaign is running so strong now. There's so many people who will, with any number of these issues that Bernie has been working on, can identify with the problem. Students who graduate from college with massive debt and can't really choose the job that would be their passion because they can't afford it. They've got to pay off the debt. So many bankruptcies. I think it's about 37% of bankruptcies are because of inability to pay for medical care. And it's absolutely insane. We provide essentially a democratic socialist response to police protection, to firefighting, to building highways Can you imagine if our country was made up of private toll roads 100%? That's ridiculous. No, we want to have public throughways, public utilities, public water supply. There is no reason to stop there. We should have public health care. Nobody needs insurance, health insurance, if they have health care. And that's really what Medicare for All is about, is saying, insurance is a racket. It's a racket where your risk of being bankrupt or not being able to afford the medicines you need are so high that you don't dare walk around without these vendors' product. Well, if we provide health care for everybody, we cut out that whole profit level, and the blood pressure of people goes down, the bankruptcies from health-related issues ceases, and I think all kinds of other social ills, violence, depression, you name it, will tend to go down when some of these basic necessities are taken care of. There's studies indicating that even for people who have, say, drug and alcohol problems and are homeless, it works better if you give them a home first, and then you can deal with their other issues. And I think, as a society, it's time for us in America to simply embrace this notion that, look, sure, some people are going to want to be millionaires and others are going to be happy smelling the roses and enjoying time with their children. But we all should understand that there's some basic level of, if somebody wants to employ your services, there's a minimum wage that's a living wage. Everybody should have a home. It may be a modest home, but everybody should have a home. Medical care is a no-brainer. Nobody knows if you're going to get cancer. I'm a cancer survivor. You don't know what's going to hit you. You could be hit by a truck. That can happen to the wealthy as well as the poor. We need to basically just say, look, we'll all take care of each other.
And on a personal note, how would your life be impacted, or the lives of those you love, if Bernie were able to enact these policies?
The reality is, and the scariest thing for me, I'm about to have 3 granddaughters. I have 2, one that was born a couple months ago and another is going to be born next month. And the scariest thing for me, quite frankly, all of these other things are sort of window dressing in a way, or maybe building blocks. The climate change issue, I think, is the most serious one, and one where Bernie stands head and shoulders above every other candidate running. Climate change, it's not just a matter of, are my summers going to get hotter or my winters less cold? Is there going to be famine? Is there going to be mass migration of people there are people, millions of people who live in areas that they'll have to leave as a result of climate change. That's going to lead to social unrest. We're going to see declines in our biodiversity, all kinds of ills that we're going to have to wrestle with. Housing, lack of health care, and those kinds of things are going to pale in comparison. So we need to have climate change front and center as the mantle that sort of covers everything. If we destroy the planet and yet provided housing for everybody before it was destroyed, that's not a huge success. We really need to act now, act aggressively to make sure that we have a livable, sustainable planet.
Do you consider yourself a democratic socialist? What do you think about democratic socialism?
I do consider myself a democratic socialist. I'm for strong laws to give residents more access to health care. I'm for universal health care, strengthening and protecting our public school system. I'm for laws to ensure that every child has access to universal college, because I believe that everyone, regardless of where they're born in the United States, should have opportunities to succeed, and I believe through democratic socialism that is a possibility.
Do you think with those big ideas that Bernie has, the freedom basically to have decent housing, healthcare, education, a livable wage, do you think that the country is ready to embrace those policies?
Absolutely, absolutely. If you look around, some of the what people don't view as democratic socialism, but democratic socialism policies are the most popular policies in the United States. Medicare, Social Security, libraries, K through 12 public education. Those are democratic socialist ideas, and they're extremely popular in America. And I think if we continue to progress and move forward and expand to ensure that everyone has opportunities, once those policies are implemented and initiated, they will be very popular amongst residents, and I think amongst citizens, and I think in general they're very popular right now.
What about those people who kind of run away screaming from the term socialism? Do you think they can be convinced?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there. If you look at a lot of the mainstream news these days, particularly Fox News, they're screaming every other day about socialism, the world is burning down, right? They have people at rallies stating they don't want any socialism in their Medicare, and so there's a lot of misinformation out there, and I think if we do the work as organizers and as people who care to push out that misinformation, I think we'll be fine.
And lastly, I'll sneak this last question in. If Bernie were able to pass these policies, how would it personally impact you or those you love?
Absolutely. I grew up here in Washington, D.C. My mom was homeless. We couldn't find adequate housing. I'm still struggling with loans. I have nieces and nephews who are going through the school system right now, and I would love to see them have universal college. And so those policies would have had a big impact in improving my life in the past, and it definitely will have a big impact on improving the lives of my family members in the future.
Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statusquo.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statusquo.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.